Hi, this is Justin, and this is part three of our group's Greens report card screencast video. For this third part, what I'm going to do, since I'm following Mark, I'm just going to pick up right where he left off, and I'm going to explain the marking criteria from amount of play all the way down to percolation rate right here. Now, Mark was looking at our corresponding document to see the parameters for each factor here, but what we can also do is if we hover our cursor over each factor, and we'll come up with a list of parameters and how to rate it from 1 to 5. Again, 5 being optimal and 1 being needs immediate attention. So an amount of play, again, like Mark said, some of them will be constant. Once you answer the question once, it'll remain that way for the duration of the season, like size of green and cupping area, etc. Amount of play would probably be one of those. Um, as amount of play is usually measured per year. As we look here, an ideal situation, you would have less than 20,000 rounds on one green per season. It's more likely to be in the 30 to 40 range. Over 50,000 rounds is probably a little extreme. It won't happen often, but if it does, there are 1 and 2 option there for you. But um, rounds will usually end up either a 3 or 4, maybe a 5. Um, Water quality is one. So we just go from excellent water to very poor. And some variables that have to do with this are the if you have hard or soft water, or if the pH in the water is going to make your greens a little too acidic or too basic. Things like that to consider when you're looking at water quality. Root depth is a good one. As you can see, 8 inches or more is optimal. If you For example, the 3-year-old bentgrass greens that I work on, if I'm changing a hole, and I can see the root depth is usually coming through the bottom of my cup cutter, so I know I'm definitely longer than 8 inches on those roots, which is optimal. That is great. So I'd score a 5 on that. There are other greens on our property that are sitting around 2 to 4 inches, POA bentgrass mixed. Um, that would go under a score of 2. Not exactly ideal, so they require a lot more maintenance to keep those healthy. Disease is another one that you really need to look out for. If you get into the 1 or 2 score of 1 or 2 on disease, then you're really going to start losing some turf. So it's a really good idea to stay on top of this from the beginning of the season. This is one, unlike others that don't change throughout the season, this is one that can definitely change throughout the season. So it's important once you see maybe scoring 5s or 4s, stay on it, keep monitoring, just to make sure that you're not dropping below that maybe a 4 threshold. As you look over the side, it says 4, likely still no worries. If we look at disease here, it comes up with a 4, 1 small area, which you're not really in huge danger of losing a lot of turf. It's just one target area that you can get rid of. Very easy, a lot easier than taking away disease that's covering half your green or more than 2 or 3 areas. So disease is definitely one to stay on top of throughout the entire season. Localized dry spot is an interesting one. It can pop up on different spots around any green really. You want to ideally you'd have no dry spots, which is a 5. Um, if you get down to the 1, then you're going to be spending a whole lot of time hand watering every single day. So it's definitely time consuming, this one, if you let it slip away. So ideally you're going to be around just 1, maybe no more than 2 or 3 different areas in each green, or else you're going to be spending a lot of time hand watering. Historical performance. Again, this won't really change once you answer it once for your first one. Over many months, it might change a bit, but this is pretty much remain a constant throughout a season. If you're looking back at past years' historical performance of a green, you can keep track, especially looking back with previous report cards from years past. what type of problems that the green might have had, how you fix those problems if problems are returning, and things like that. So it's definitely a good thing to look into historical performance. If you see a 2 or a 1, then you know that that green has had problems in the past, and maybe you should look at some bigger answers in fixing those problems, um, like reshaping or resodding or even taking down some trees if it's a light problem, things like that. Winter injury. Again, this one you're only going to answer probably once, maybe twice in the spring after you see some any evidence of winter kill. Ideally, again, no winter kill would be best. Usually, you're probably going to look at about 0 to 5% fungicides that you can spray in the fall to help prevent some winter kill like snow molds, but you're still going to have problems if you have obviously a fungicide can't control freeze and thaw throughout the winter, temperature fluctuations, wind, stuff like that. So it's always a good idea to evaluate your winter injury in the spring. Lastly, we have percolation rate. This one's pretty easily measured. It's basically just how quickly the water seeps through the soil once the green is irrigated. And if you look at these numbers, ideally you'd have about 8 inches per hour. And much too slow percolation rate would be about less than 2 inches per hour. That would require immediate attention. Between 6 to 8 inches per hour, you're pretty good.